Love&Gelato by Jenna Welch. Chapter 1. The house loomed brightly in the distance, like a lighthouse in a sea of headstones. But it couldn't be his house, right? We were probably just following some kind of Italian custom. Always drive newcomers to a cemetery, the way they get a feel for the local culture. Yeah, that must be it. I need my fingers in my lap, my stomach dropping as the house got closer and closer. It was like watching Jaws emerge from the depths of the ocean. Dun, dun. Only it wasn't a movie. It was real, and there was only one turn left. Don't panic, this can't be it. Mom wouldn't have sent you to live in a cemetery. She would have warned you. She would have. It flipped on the turn sign, and all the hair came rushing out of my lungs. She just didn't tell me. Are you okay? Howard, my dad, I guess I should call him, was looking at me with a concerned expression, probably because I just made a whizzing noise. Is that your... Words fail me, so I had to point. Well, yes. He hesitated for a moment and gestured out of the window. Lena, didn't you know about all this? All these didn't even come too close to describing the massive moonlight cemetery. My grandma told me I'd be staying on American-owned land. She said you're the caretaker of World War II Memorial. I didn't think that. Panic was pouring over me like hot syrup. Also, I couldn't seem to finish a single sentence. Breathe, Lena. You have already survived the worst. You can survive this, too. He pointed to the far end of the property. The memorial is that building right up there. But the rest of the grounds are for the graves of American soldiers who were killed in Italy during the war. But this isn't your house, right? It's just where you work. He didn't answer. Instead, we pulled into the driveway, and this wasn't just a house, it was a home. Red geraniums lined the walkway, and there was a porch swing creaking back and forth, like someone had just gotten up. Subtract the crosses lining the surrounding lawns, and it was any normal house in any normal neighborhood. But it wasn't a normal neighborhood, and those crosses didn't look like they were going anywhere, ever. They liked to have a caretaker on site at all times, so they built this house back in the 60s. Owen took the keys out of the ignition, then drummed his finger nervously on the steering wheel. I'm really sorry, Lena. I thought you knew. I can't imagine what you're thinking right now. It's a cemetery. My voice was like weak tea. He turned and looked at me, not quite making eye contact. I know, and the last thing you need is a reminder of everything you've been through this year. But I think you will find that this place grows on you. It's really peaceful and it has a lot of interesting history. Your mother loved it, and after being here almost 17 years, I can't imagine living anywhere else. His voice was awful, but I slumped back in my seat and a swarm of questions taking flight in my mind. If she loved it so much, then why didn't she ever tell me about it? Why didn't she ever talk about you until she got sick? And for the love of all that's Ollie, what made her leave out the teeny tiny detail that you are my father? I would absorb my silence for a moment, then open his car door. Let's head inside, I will get your suitcase. All 6'5" of him walked around to the back of the car, and I leaned over to watch him in the side mirror. My grandma had been the one to fill in the blanks. He's your father. That's why she wanted you to live with him. I probably should have seen it coming. It's just that good old body hours through identity seemed like the sort of thing my mother would have at least mentioned. Howard closed the trunk and I straightened up and started riffling through my backpack, buying myself another few seconds. Lena, think you are alone in a foreign country, a certified bag giant has just stepped forward as your father, and your new home could be the setting for a zombie apocalypse movie. Do something. But what? Shut up wrestling the car keys from Howard. I couldn't think of a single way to get out of going into the house. Finally, I unbuckled my seat belt and followed him to the front door. Inside, the house was aggressively normal. Like maybe it thought it could be all make up for its location if it just tried hard enough. I already set my suitcase down in front of the front way. And then we walked into a living room with two overstuffed chairs and a leather sofa. There was a bunch of vintage travel posters on the walls, and the whole place smelled like it had been soaking in garlic and onions. But in a good way, obviously. Welcome home, Howard said, switching on the main light. Fresh panic smacked me into the face, and he winced when he saw my expression. I mean, welcome to Italy. I'm so glad you're here. Howard? Hi, Sonia. A tall gazelle-like woman stepped into the room. She was maybe a few years older than Howard, with coffee-colored skin and the rows of gold bracelet on each arm. Gorgeous, and also a surprise. Lena, she said, enunciating my name carefully. You made it. How are your flights? I shifted from one foot to the other. Was someone going to introduce us? They were okay. The last one was really long. We're so glad you're here, she beamed at me, and there was a thick moment of silence. Finally, I stepped forward. So, you are Ower's wife? Ower and Sonia looked at each other and then practically started howling with laughter. Lena Emerson, comic genius. Finally, Ower got himself under control. Lena, this is Sonia. She's the assistant superintendent of the cemetery. She's been working here even longer than I have. Just by a few months, Sonia said, wiping her eyes. Howard always makes me sound like a dinosaur. My house is on the property too, a little closer to the memorial. How many people live here? Just us two, now 3, Howard said. And about 4,000 soldiers. Sonia had it grinning. She squinted at Howard, and I glanced back just in time to see him frantically running on finger across his throat. Non-verbal communication. Great. Sonia's smiles vanished. Lena, are you hungry? I made a lasagna. That's what the smell was. I'm pretty hungry, I admitted. Understatement. Good, I made my specialty, lasagna with extra garlicky garlic bread. Yes, Howard said, pumping like a contestant on The Price is Right. You decided to spoil us. It's a special night, so I thought I'd go all out. Lena, you probably want to wash your hands. I'll dish up and you can meet us in the dining room. Howard pointed across the living room. Bathroom's over there. I nodded, then set my backpack on the nearest chair before practically fleeing to the room. The bathroom was miniature, barely big enough for a toilet and a sink, and I ran the water as hot as I could stand it, scrubbing the airport off my hands with a sheet of soap from the edge of the sink. While I scrubbed, I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror and I groaned. I looked like I'd been dragged through 3 different time zones. Which, to be fair, I had my normally